Grandparents raising grandchildren face the challenge of communicating with the parents as well as the child. Our series continues with a focus on co-parenting. And Norfolk Public Schools offers parents access to a wealth of resources. Don't go away. The forum begins right now. Parenting can be enough of a challenge, but when you find yourself parenting your grandchild or other young relative, it doesn't take long to realize that there are a lot of opinions about child rearing in addition to your own. Kathy Dial is president of Kin and Kids Consulting, and she joins us for our continuing series of discussions about kinship care. And we'd also please like to welcome Aditi Dutt, who is a parent educator who is going to talk with Kathy, along with Kathy, about co-parenting. And I guess maybe start off with, what does that mean, co-parenting?
Well, co-parenting is you have one child and you're parenting from two different households. And in this situation, you would have the child who's living with a grandparent or a relative caregiver, and then you would have the child's parents, mother or father, living in another household, and you're sharing parenting responsibilities and putting input into how you're raising this child.
Okay, so when you have situations where there are two households, two parent groups or individuals, and one child, or more than one child for that matter, you're going to have some opinions, and they're not always going to be the same. So conflict can develop. Who's in the middle of it all? The child, who may or may not have anything to say about it. And Aditi, you look and have dealt with and have talked about conflict in co-parenting situations before. So what is it is there a number one issue that most people seem to be dealing with when it comes to a situation such as this?
Conflict cannot be avoided. So what I say is that if there is conflict, not to show the anger in a negative way in front of the kids, because the kids are looking at their role models, in this case the grandparents and the parents, and learning from them as to how to handle conflict in their own lives. And many times, depending on what they see the grandparents or the parents do to show their anger, they might repeat that behavior in school. And nowadays, with zero tolerance policy in schools, if they were to model such angry behavior in schools, many times they lose out on class time, and then it comes back to the grandparents and the parents to make up for instruction that they have lost.
Wow.
So I always tell parents and grandparents that conflict cannot be avoided, but what you can do is learn to solve problems in a positive way. Thereby you're teaching your child some positive skills to take later on in life in their, into their employer situations, in their own relationships, and they're learning from you.
Right. And I guess the bonus is when you make that effort and you take those steps, is you're also learning, the grandparents and the parents are learning a lot too, which can only mean good things.
And we know that it's important for them to learn to communicate, because research shows that the children want to visit with their parents, and most of them, when they move over to living with a relative or grandparent, they feel safe, but they still have that triad they're trying to put in a safe situation so that we communicate positively.
Yeah. Well, I guess that, if the parents and grandparents have at least made an effort at some kind of peaceful coexistence, the child is going to feel more relaxed and more safe overall, no matter which household he or she happens to be in at that point in time.
Oh, definitely.
And I've noticed that more the number of positive adults in a child's life, the better they do in school. So instead of one of the adults in the child's life trying to pry away the relationship with, say, the grandparent or another parent, bring them in, because more the number of adults, the better it is for the child.
Wow.
And so many times you find this pulling and pushing, trying to say nasty things about one of the, either a grandparent or the other side of the family in order to buy the child's love. And you don't have to do that. Incorporate all the adults in this child's life, and it can only do good for the child.
It's a great idea, but how do you get people like that together in order to show them or train them or educate them on that? I mean, certainly by mentioning it here on a show like this is great, but there's a lot more to it. So are there resources for that sort of?
There are a lot of resources out there. Many different agencies offer co-parenting classes where you'll come in and they'll give you the tips that you should use when you're co-parenting. Aditi addressed one, not bad-mouthing the other parent, helping the child to remember the parent's birthday, sending cards, allowing for telephone calls, talking about what it takes to raise a child even, because that's part of the whole co-parenting issue. The little extras that children require besides food and clothing. And then also the parenting classes teach what we need to know about children's behavior, because when children move from their birth parents' home to a grandparent's or relative's home, they go through some trauma and they have behavioral changes. Aditi and I were talking about some of those changes recently.
Yeah, and different ages of children show different signs of behavioral changes. You might see all the way from angry reactions all the way down to low self-esteem and depression. And many times this happens because constantly children feel that they are to blame for the situation. So I tell parents or caregivers constantly, remind the children, keep talking to the children and telling them it is not your fault. All that is happening in your life, it has nothing to do with you. And we have to assert that to them, because otherwise they constantly say, well, maybe I did something wrong, or maybe I shouldn't have done such and such, and then I would not have been in this predicament. And we have to constantly let them know it has, it's other people in your lives that, need to maybe change something in their lives, but that has nothing to do with you, and we have to constantly remind them.
It sounds like a very good thing to kind of always keep in the front of your mind when you are dealing with that other person with whom you may have conflict, just to always keep in mind that the child really does come first here.
Yes.
And that's often hard when we are leading separate lives or have our ways of doing things, to let the guard down and be more than you need to be around a child.
And many times there's a conflict because the parent might now find a new love interest in their lives, and they might put more time and effort into that relationship rather than keeping contact with their children. And they, have to remember this child is hurting because of all these changes taking place in this child's life. They might have had to move to a new school district, start a new school in the middle of the school year. And because of that, they are now a rookie in a new school system, and they might be bullied in the school, or they might not have friends. They might have had to leave their old neighborhood and come in and live with their grandparents, which is a brand new neighborhood, which means they have had to leave good friends behind. So they're going through a lot of trauma and stress because of all these changes taking place in their lives. So to give as much time to these children as possible, because they need you right now, no matter what their age is, whether they are infants or all the way to teenagers.
They do need, and they need consistent attention and a consistent way of behaving.
Oh, definitely, because they will try to play one parent against the other parent. So it's good to have that open communication and looking at the same parenting styles, setting up the same study habits, sleep hours, phone access.
Yeah, that unified front really can make a difference. Because I guess if a child that's what the child will revert to, what the child knows how to do, which might be the game playing because they don't really have the tools to deal with it any other way.
And children love structure. They love consistency. They love predictability. And so the more routines you can now start putting into this child's life, it is going to help this child heal from all these changes and trauma that they've had to go through. So I always try to tell both sides of, whatever the conflict is from, to try to work together. Make the rules in both the houses the same. Make, giving the child discipline techniques, as Kathy said, the same, because that brings in structure in this child's life, and that kind of helps them heal and calm down.
It makes so much sense, but it's not easy necessarily to practice those things. So are there supports for that sort of
Well, there are a couple of
structural
things they
building?
can do. They can attend parenting classes that are available to them. They're the co-parenting classes that give additional tips, like we talked about, on how you communicate between the two households. For parents, we talked about grandparents not bad-mouthing or venting in front of the child. They can attend support groups where they can share their frustrations with other grandparents or relatives, caregivers going through the same things, so that when they are home, they can present more of a positive outlook for those children.
And there are a lot of grandparents and parents going
there
through
are
this, are there
many.
not?
There are over 100,000 children in Virginia that are being raised by grandparents and relatives. So
And that's what you know.
we know, and that's the ones who have, given us the information through the census. There are many others who haven't really surfaced or shared that information.
I don't know if this is a fair question. Do you see that growing?
I do.
I see that too. Because the census was 2010, and that was 100,000 was the number. It's
Okay.
been 5 years since then, and we know that we have many, many, many more.
Right.
Even in our Hampton Roads area,
Wow.
many more. In the classes I do, I see so many grandparents coming in, desperately searching for, help to raise the grandchildren and, to try to resolve some of the conflicts that come up, even because of blended families.
Yeah.
Many times that now come into the picture, because the mom or the dad may now be in a relationship with somebody else who has children of their own. So now the child is put into a situation with new kids of both genders, and they have to now not only deal with maybe a new school system, a new parent, but also new siblings,
Right.
all at once, while still keeping up the grades. And so there's so much going on in these child's lives, and many times they don't talk about their feelings. And so we have to make sure that we are constantly talking and reassuring them, and getting to know what's going on in their minds. And
helping them to make
Yes.
sense of some of it too.
yes,
Well, I'm sure that the whole idea of structure, when you say that the relatives are coming desperately seeking for things, that structure they're looking for too, isn't it?
yes,
It's not just for the child, but if they don't have it, they can't really share that with the child that's in their care.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
they're huge responsibilities, and unfortunately, we're not all taught those things just when we're parents.
Yeah.
You have to kind of learn them.
Yeah.
That's so true. We just have to build new ideas and new skills and add to our toolbox. And overall, most of the grandparents are very resilient, and they just need that additional support.
Okay. Well, there are support groups out there for relatives who are raising other relatives' children, grandparents raising grandchildren, being a pretty large chunk of that population now. And it's not uncommon to talk to people who are now adults who were also raised by grandparents and can speak from their own experience. So there's a wealth of information. It's sometimes just where do you go to get it and find out more, and getting started instead of being in a whirlwind, which is what conflict can certainly do. To one's state of mind, it can certainly make one confused, and that doesn't help anybody. You speak very wisely, so I know that she has. You have spoken to many people and have heard many things.
Yes.
And I appreciate your sharing some of that wisdom with me and with the viewers, and would love to learn more. So perhaps we can have you back to further investigate some of the practical and very important ways to make sure that these kids are going to be okay. So
Sure.
thank you very much, Aditi, for coming. Kathy,
Thank
as
you
always,
for having us.
it was a pleasure. I'm so glad you brought her with us, and we'll see you again soon.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
We'll be back in a moment to give you a peek into a wonderful resource for parents of students in Norfolk Public Schools.
Don't look at me. Your hair's a bit frizzy today. Oh, you should pick that up. Oh, you're such a dork. Loser. Here, let me help you with that. Oops.
Every day, kids witness bullying.
Oh, look. Your crush is looking at you. Poor you.
They want to help, but don't know how.
See, no one here's gonna help you, because no one
Teach your
likes you.
kids how to be more than a bystander. Visit stopbullying.gov.
Traditional light bulbs actually generate 9 times more heat than light. Switch to Energy Star light bulbs, and you'll realize just how much cash you were really burning through. Saving energy saves you money. Learn more at EnergySavers.gov.
If your child is learning disabled, or you know someone who has a child who is, the Norfolk Public School System has a Parent Access Center that actually provides resources, information, workshops for parents of children that require special education. And with me I have Beverly Carter, who is a program, or rather a parent educator for the Norfolk Public Schools Parent Access Center. And that's a mouthful. And it's a relatively new facility across from the Kroc Center.
Correct.
So that's easy to find if you know where that is, and a very nice facility at that, and a very, very welcome place for people to go who are really in need of some support and resources, information, training, to help them and to help their child
Correct.
through school.
Correct.
Welcome.
All right, thank you. Thank you.
So the idea of having access to information is an invaluable thing for people who have children who may have some disabilities, some learning disabilities. And so what is it you offer?
Okay, to begin with, our program started in the 1980s, the early 1980s in Northern Virginia. And what happened was there was a parent that was in the special education arena that needed assistance with understanding an IEP, which is an individualized education plan for her child, but she did not understand. So because of that, they developed a program, and they developed a center, which is called a Parent Resource Center. And they provided to that parent information to give them a guide to know what to ask for when they go to an IEP meeting. An IEP meeting is when a parent or anyone in the community that works with the child can see that the child has a need or a learning disability or something of that nature, and they go to the school and they request a meeting in order to have an IEP developed. But this particular parent did not know what to do. So the Parent Resource Centers became an active part of the community in Northern Virginia, and it has migrated to the South. On October the 30th, 2014, we opened our Parent Access Center here, Parent Resource Center, at 3016 Princess Anne Road in Norfolk, Virginia. And what I do there is I get referrals, or sometimes I reach out into the community to the different schools that are within Norfolk Public Schools. And sometimes we do have some referrals from outside schools. And I assist in educating the parents concerning the IEP process. I don't go to IEP meetings with them, but I do have information for them to understand what their rules are and the regulations according to the state laws in Virginia. Each child has a right to a free and appropriate education, okay? We have what we call the Purple Book, and if you come and visit me, I'll be glad to give you one, which is a form of a Bible for the parent so that they can understand just what your child has a right to in the school systems. This is where a lot of parents they lack the knowledge, they lack the knowledge to get what they need for their child.
That can be a bit intimidating, I would imagine.
Yes, it can, but that's why we're here. We have classes that we offer on understanding the IEP process. Recently, we've had one because the parents didn't understand the different sections of the IEP. Within the IEP are certain things that are put in place to assist the child in developing productive learning skills, or to help them to meet their requirement. One thing that we must understand in the special education process is that each child is different. Each child learns differently. A lot of parents don't understand that, and a lot of community organizations or resources don't understand that either. So that's where we're there. We have classes on behavior, we have classes on autism and other disabilities, traumatic brain injury, or it could be cerebral palsy, any type of disability that would affect a child. We have information on that, and what we do is we try to offer classes for the parents to be able to understand how to work with your child. One of the larger workshops that we've been working on recently is autism, because a lot of children and a lot of parents don't know how to communicate effectively to help the child, okay? So what we've been doing is offering workshops on that. We're having a workshop next week, as a matter of fact, on the 12th, on adaptive PE, teaching your child who may have a disability how to effectively become active with children when they're outside playing, okay? Let's say playing baseball, football, or whatever. But there are ways that a child can adapt to that. What the parent needs to know is how to help their child to adapt to that, okay? We're having another one on assistive technology. Assistive technology can be very, very important with the child. Okay, so what we try to do is we try to assist the parent in understanding the technology part of the learning process. Okay.
It's
So
not
we're
something
doing
you
that.
always think about, but you're right. These are very
There's a
important
process to that. I'll give you an example. I am the type of person you have to show me.
Okay.
You show me, and that's how I learn. Okay. Some children can just look at something and they learn that way, okay? But for me, that's not the way that I learn. Well, our children that have disabilities, they have different types also, and that is what we need to understand. How do they learn? And when it comes to technology, how do they learn? Are they better at a computer? Are they better at a laptop, or the Kindle, or the little game things? How do they learn? What's the best way? So our assistive technology department is going to handle that. Another one that we're going to have next week also is going to be on behaviors. Different disabilities have different behaviors. How do we address the behavior of that child? What is the process? How do I help my child to correct the behavior if the behavior is negative. And then how do I praise my child when she does something, he or she does something that is positive? So many times parents with children that have disabilities, they become frustrated and they don't know how to address the issues. Well, we're there. That's part of our job. We have professionals from our Learning Support Division, which is at the School Board Administration building. And if I can't find the answers, I can always make a phone call. I can, we talk about technology, I can get on the computer or just, you know, call up someone that I can be there and we can get them that information.
Well, that must be a huge relief to some parents who really have been not sure about how to navigate the system.
Yes, it has been. I don't know if you heard about our recent newspaper article where we had a parent, as a matter of fact, she was a grandparent who had custody of her child, her grandson, and she was very bewildered when it came to him and his behaviors and other things that were going on with his school. Well, we were able to alleviate that matter for her. And as of right now, the child is progressing. The grandparents' needs have been met, and it became a very positive situation and something that could have been very negative. We find that a lot of times parents are very frustrated, and sometimes they just need a listening ear. I'm that too.
Okay, well, you are a bit of everything, huh?
I'm that too. I always try to have a listening ear. We all need someone at some point in our life. And so therefore, I try to be that listening ear. I'm there from 9 a.m. in the morning until 4:30 in the afternoon, Monday through Thursday, and then 9 to 12:30 on Fridays.
Oh, okay.
But I take phone calls sometimes unlimitedly times, you know. I try to be there.
But you do it because it's a good thing to do and it's helpful and you see people get what they need.
I have a heart for it. Yes, I do. This is not a job that you should just take literally. You have to have a heart to do it. You have to be sensitive to the needs of others. But our greatest goal and accomplishment is for the need of the child. Yes. The child is what comes first, regardless to what situation or circumstances come along. To meet the need of the child is the most important thing.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It sounds like a wonderful opportunity for parents. I'm glad that we're getting the word out in one more way for people that may not know where to turn, or they maybe just heard about it, but they're not really sure what it's really about.
Right.
You definitely do give it a heart. Thank you so much for sharing great information, wonderful resource for parents and grandparents who may need someone to help them find the way, for the benefit, of course, of the child, as you said, because the child always comes first.
There you go.
Thank you, Beverly.
And thank you for having me.
My pleasure. And thank you for joining us. We'll see you again next time. Bye.